Hi, we are in talk 5 of 6 on this series of conscious personality management. We've been delving into various aspects of the personality, various components of it in this series. And in this particular talk, we are going to be delving into our mental body. There are various layers even within the mental self. So the level of mental body that we are referring to as a component of our personality is what is philosophically often termed as the lower manus. And there is also something that is referred to as the higher manus or simply manus, which refers to divine intelligence. And when I use the term divine, I don't mean it in a religious manner. I mean in a manner that is cosmic, that is beyond the human self. The lower manus is also intelligence, but within us, it operates as a sense of intellect, our ability to be logical, to be rational, to be articulate, to use language, for example. All of which is a function of our intelligence, our physical intelligence. And the purpose of this mental body that we have, which is referred to as the lower manus, is that it serves the personality. It serves the rest of the components of the personality. So our intellect allows us to take care of our physical body, our etheric body, our emotional body, and of course it also takes care of itself. And so when we use the term lower manus, the lower is not a judgment in any form here. It is referred to as the lower manus simply because it caters to the personality and not so much to the higher self. Having said that, it is still extremely critical and needs to be nurtured and worked with actively. Now, what's the default stance of this mental body that each of us carry? The default stance is for it to generate a whole lot of opinions because that's what our intellect is used to do. It's also trained to do. And therefore, it always looks at things, makes judgments, has opinions. Our mental body also sometimes assigns blame. It can generate a sense of suspicion. Of course, it is also capable of logically analyzing something, being objective, being appreciative, and so on. But left to itself, it is an opinion generating machine. Right? We look at something and we have something to say about it. Right? So that's the default mode that it tends to operate in. Now, if you notice this default mode and this tendency that it generates opinions about anything and everything in life, and we tend to go from moment to moment, at least unconsciously thinking about, I like this moment, I don't quite like this moment was better than that moment, and so on. If we stay in this opinion generating mode all the time, we also end up creating a lot of clutter. And that's one of the flip sides of the default mode of our mental body, that we end up generating a lot of clutter, at least within ourselves. And a lot of this clutter is also projected outside. At the level of the collective, we see this clutter in the form of posts on social media, for example, that troll people, that shame a certain set of people or a certain kind of trait or certain kinds of life choices and so on. All of that is because we're constantly generating opinions, and those opinions are meant to serve ourselves, our personalities, and in the process, they're not in service of the rest of the world. And this default, therefore, ends up creating a whole lot of conflict that we don't quite need in our lives and also in the larger world. And therefore, managing our mental body consciously entails Of course, firstly, managing the rest of our bodies, which means we need to make sure that we manage our physical, our etheric, and our emotional bodies to also be able to regulate and realign with our mental body. So having managed the other bodies, and not necessarily in that particular order, we're simultaneously managing each of these parts of our personality all the time. But to consciously manage it would mean to identify what is essential. Who am I serving by generating this thought, this opinion, this judgment, this analysis even? If am I serving anything beyond my own personality, beyond my own survival? If I'm not serving anything beyond my own survival, is this really even essential? Again, it's important to note that we do need to make decisions using our intellect, which are also essential for our survival. That is one of the purposes why our intellect exists, right? And it takes up a fair amount of physical space in our neocortex so that it keeps us functional. It enables us to lead our lives the way we do. It also has, collectively, our mental bodies have created the world as we live in today. Having said that, we've also created a world with a lot of conflicts, with a lot of injustice, because we've not managed our mental bodies very consciously, and we've not identified with collective needs before managing our mental bodies. And therefore, it's essential to give it a sense of what is essential, what is our purpose, what are we living for, and live by that sense of conviction and that sense of clarity about what is essential, how much do we need to use our intellect, and when do we need to step back and rest and not keep generating opinions. A beautiful way to manage our mental body is to let it access a sense of meaning. What are you living for? What is your higher purpose? What is the highest service that your life can give to the world? If we are able to channel our mental energies, our intelligence quotient, as it is called, if we can channel it towards a sense of larger meaning and purpose, that's beautiful use of our mental bodies. It's a beautiful, beautiful resource that all of us have. And like any other layer of our personality, it needs to be managed by us instead of it being allowed to manage us. And so, some reflections, among others, that you can have are, firstly, what kind of mental voices do you hear the most? Because there is a likelihood that in its default mode, our mental bodies may prefer to voice one kind of opinion or one kind of judgment more than others. And therefore, are there voices even within yourself, within parts of you, that are left unheard? Are there certain voices that are louder than others? And if so, how do you regulate? How do you be fair within your own self? Also, what kind of excuses does your mental body sometimes use to lead you? For example, excuses such as, oh yes, I know that's the right thing to do, but that does not seem quite practical at the moment, and therefore I'm not going to do it, is an excuse that our mental body uses to justify or to rationalize something which in your heart you know is not right, which your higher intelligence tells you is not right. And so those are some kind of excuses you might want to delve it and look at how real are these excuses, and can we go past the limitations of the personality, past our fears, past our emotional and mental selves, which form sometimes a collusion to take over our lives. And once we start doing that, we will realize that we start accessing an intelligence that is much higher and way beyond just our IQ, our intelligence quotient. So do take time to reflect in an integrated manner on all the four levels of our personality that we have spoken about. And we will wrap this up in the final talk in the series.
Help Talks are daily health-related talks held at Health Education Library for People, Mumbai, India. For more information visit www.healthlibrary.com. Subscribe to Help Talks channel. Be better informed about your health.